Alrighty, so let's talk about work-related musculoskeletal disorders because that's a lot to say and I have an accent. I'm just going to say WMSDs. Okay. Now, what is a WMSD? Good question, Ross. So this is an injury to mainly various types of tissue. So it can be bone, muscle, ligaments, cartilage, joints, axons, anything that you can imagine in the body, it's there. So if you're taking anatomy, you're welcome. So common types of WMSDs. So if we're talking more about the upper body, it could be something like the shoulders or wrist, so specifically carpal tunnel syndrome. If we're talking about the lower body, it could be something like chronic back pain or sciatica. Now, I know that this looks a little busy right now, but it's quite simple really. So talking about the influencing factors, there's individual factors. So this include sex, age, BMI of an individual, educational levels, and lifestyle behaviors. So for example, if somebody is a smoker, somebody has a high BMI, if somebody's of older age, anything like that, that's all gonna come into play. Second one is occupational factors. So this deals more with the biomechanical and physiological demand exerted at the workplace. So specifically, if somebody has to sit down for, let's say, 6-8 hours a day, or if somebody has to drive for a long period, if somebody has to lift something, or the gross amount of the moment arm that's caused. Not the moment arm, but the overall moment. Moment arm is a whole other thing. Psychosocial factors, back at it. So this is talking specifically about an individual's perception of the workplace environment. So this involves pressure at the workplace, stress at the workplace, whether they have social supports around. Good. Now, more specifically, individual factors post to lower back WMSDs are older age, because as we get older, your bone density does decrease, muscle mass does decrease unless you're taking creatine, as well as if you have a high BMI, that's another factor. If you smoke, there you go, or if you have lower educational levels. Occupational factors, it could be something like lifting a couple times. I mean, this is proper lifting. So let's say I'm lifting something here, so there's going to be a lot of tension at the lower back. If you're doing that frequently, then that tissue is going to run down. As well as whole body vibration, like I mentioned before. So there's been a couple studies done on truck drivers, and they do experience a high level of lower back pain just because they're sitting down and they experience the vibration for a long period of time. Psychosocial factors, so this one's really, really, really interesting to me because it's not too talked about and it's only been researched for the last 15, 20 years. More specifically, they've been looking at bullying behavior. So if somebody does experience bullying at the workplace, how does that affect their lower back pain? In some cases, they have shown that it does increase. If somebody experiences stress at the workplace, that does increase it as well. And if somebody doesn't have social support networks around them, it does increase the overall risk for lower back pain. Yes. Who cares? Me. So let's talk about the research. Specifically about my honors project. Before I talk about this, I'm going to give a short little story about how it all came to be. So one day I was sitting at the biomechanics lab and I thought to myself, Jesus, I'm taking 6 classes, working full-time. I have a lot of free time. What should I do? Let's do an honors. Absolutely. And then Paul walked in, and I said, Paul, would you be the Obi-Wan to my Luke Skywalker? He looked at me and said, no, I'm already that to my kids. And I thought, okay, that's weird, okay. I said, no, Paul, no, you're not understanding me. Would you show me the ways of the Force? Would you show me how to do research? He said, yeah. He looked at me dead in the eye, paused for a second, and said, your honors with me you'll do. And that was the beginning. So, the objective of my research was to detect the overall prevalence of lower back pain at the university. Past research has focused on overall different types of work. So as I said before, truck drivers, physical jobs, sedentary jobs. But at the university, we have all of those together. And they do, they interact with one another nice and easy. And I just wanted to see, would it be the same as the literature? Does the literature lie to me or does it tell the truth? I don't know. I do, but I don't know. Now, this was a cross-sectional observational study. For those of you taking 220, you'll know what it means. Our research design, the location was the University of Regina. Participants included adults from 18 years of age older that worked full-time at the University of Regina. The exclusion criteria involved part-time workers or casual workers. I didn't want to have that because there could be some other stuff happening when they're not here. And if you're here full-time, you love the university, you basically live here. Now, our data collection methods included an online questionnaire, so we used this, the survey software Qualtrics, if you guys are familiar with it. It's pretty handy. Now, for the questionnaire specifically, we wanted to know a couple different things. So first, we got their anthropometric measurements, so we used their height and their weight to calculate their BMI later on. We asked them about their lifestyle behaviors. So we asked them if they smoked. If they did smoke, what did they smoke? So did they use cigarettes? Did they use vapes? Did they smoke something else like marijuana? If so, how would that affect lower back pain? We also asked them about previous history. So have they experienced a lower back WMSD before? Do they experience lower back pain? Talking about lower back pain, we also used the Oswestry disability index. So this let us know just what the overall disability is from the lower back pain. And we also had occupational questions. So we asked them if they sat, how long did they sit, if they lifted something, if they needed to twist their body while they were lifting, how many times they do that. Good. And the analysis, we did that with SPSS, all of that fancy stuff. Now, we used a logistic regression test. We didn't get too many people that had experienced a WMSD within the last couple of years, so we decided to use lower back pain as our dependent variable. Our independent variables included individual, occupational, and psychosocial factors that I talked about earlier on. And the results. So we had 74 lovely people that decided to help me out with my project. This is what's interesting here. So the educational levels, all of this big 60%, are individuals who had a graduate degree or higher. You can see that 24% had some undergraduate work, 11% had some other type of certificate, and only 5% had their high school degrees. So this created a problem for me, which I'll show you later on. It's quite lovely. Now, the BMIs, we got 23 people in the category of normal. The rest were overweight or obese. And again, only 11 people reported experiencing a WMSD within the last couple of years. And for our results, 66% of people who answered the questionnaire did report to have some sort of lower back pain, and 34% didn't. Out of this 66%, they had to fill out the OD score, and 71% reported a minimal disability from their lower back pain. 27% reported a moderate, but not too bad, and only one person said that it was crippling. Now, this is my problem. So, over here, we had 3 significant variables and 3 that could potentially be significant, but we don't know. So the first one was age. Individuals that were over the age of 45 were less likely to experience lower back pain. That's not what the research told me. Research told me that the older that you get, the more likely it is. I don't know. So this could be based because we have such an educated population that it might counteract that. We need to see more as to how this affects age. BMI, so being in the category of overweight, did increase the overall risk to experience lower back pain. Sitting for more than 6 hours, I wish Katya were here, but it showed that it's actually protective, so it does reduce your risk for lower back pain. However, we did not ask whether that 6 hours was a continuous 6 hours or whether they broke it down into different spots throughout the day. So we need to look more into this. And then the 3 potentially significant variables. So having a BMI of obese did increase the overall risk. Having a physically demanding job between moderate to high did increase the overall risk. And here's another problem. Job pressure. So experiencing constant job pressure decreased the overall risk for lower back pain. Why? I don't know. Let's do research. So it could be, again, because of the education factor, that means that they may be in jobs of a higher place. So their stresses are different towards something else. So for example, if I'm worried about my job, I would be worried about paying rent, about paying for food, about keeping my girlfriend happy, about feeding my cat. And somebody else who makes over $140,000 a year, they're just worried about making their payments and just keeping their job. Not too bad. Okay? Now, our limitations was a reporting bias. So our participants may have under or over-guessed their own weight and height. Their reports of lower back pain could have been a little bit biased. We don't know. We didn't measure it directly. Our selection bias, because we used our questionnaire, it could be that individuals who participated in our study likely had experienced lower back pain or had experienced a work-related musculoskeletal disorder previously. And our sample size. So we only had 74 people. They were fairly educated, so we don't know whether that's enough to make a gross generalized statement about what's going on at the university.